the people are so divorced from what's really going on in the world. I think New York is like its own little ecosystem, its own little bubble. You got the ad industry, you've got the media industry, you've got Wall Street, and everybody's kind of living in this little cocoon where they don't understand how the rest of the world works. And that's a real problem. And part of that cocoon is what shielded the media from really understanding and having the ability to have any sensitivity to the issues of Main Street America. This is why Donald Trump won in 2016. And this is why, if the election were held today, not only would he get the Republican nomination, but he has a very good shot at giving Joe Biden a run for his money. I mean that. We're going to get into some polls in just a second that prove that, despite the sort of hatred, if you would, for him there in the media world. I mean, think about what just transpired there on CNN just last night. We saw Caitlin Collins there hosting this town hall with Donald Trump. He was in his sort of usual style, very upfront, very outspoken. I do believe he may have called her nasty. And like I said, in his sort of very upfront style, really captivated the audience. Yet again, I'm looking at the numbers here, and this is a network that, let's face it, has really, really been struggling. It struggled all through the Trump presidency, and after Trump left office, continued losing in terms of its ratings. It has lost 50% of its ratings since he left. Well, what do you know? He goes on television, they do this town hall, and they doubled Fox and CNN. The ratings were off the charts, topping 3 million. Now, the media itself is furious. I mean, I was looking at the headlines today. You had Daily Beast saying, and I quote, CNN failed America with its train wreck of a Trump town hall. And this is what people said sort of over and over again, this train wreck. They did not like this town hall. They didn't like the boisterousness of the audience. Like I've moderated big events like this, including, by the way, two times the Republican presidential primary debates. And look, there were some questions I asked that the audience didn't love. And hey, that's just kind of goes with the territory, right? I mean, don't shoot the messenger. You got to ask the questions, but she ought to be able to handle herself. CNN ought to be able to handle itself. The guy that runs CNN is trying to kind of, make everybody feel good about it. Apparently all the employees are furious. How could we possibly host this guy? We hate this guy. Why would he be on our air? Well, he might be on your air because, look, he's out in front. He might very well be the Republican pick for president. So why wouldn't you want to be introducing him to America, asking him questions, pushing him, letting Americans hear from him? I mean, this is your job, right? As a journalist organization, if in fact that's what you are, you can't just say, well, we don't like that candidate, so we're just not going to put him on ever. It doesn't work like that. Your responsibility is to present all sides, which means even if you don't like the candidate, guess what? If you want to be open for business, you ought to be able to host these kind of events and to be able to cover him. And yet they refused for 4 years. And the media expects everyone to refuse. That's the real problem here. So everybody piled on. You saw everybody freaking out one after another. I'm trying to see if I have any sound I can play for you. But I mean, suffice it to say, the likes of Joy Behar, everybody over at MSNBC, they're livid. Well, for one thing, they're jealous, right? Because they're like, oh my gosh, they got 3 million people tuning in. Like, that's kind of a big deal. We're over here with 1.5 at best. Actually, no, even probably less than that, because definitely CNN more than doubled the ratings of Fox and MSNBC. So the reality is they're a little bit jealous, and they all know, look, he might be the Republican nominee. Again, I'm telling you, he's way ahead in the polls, way out in front. You can't ignore that. If you try and pretend he's not there, then you're not doing your job, are you now, as a journalist organization? So I think it was smart for them to do this, but they could have, one, asked better questions. I would have liked to have seen far more on the policy front, but that's not their style. We know what the media